Hi, everyone. This is Maggie Ostara, and I'm delighted to welcome you here today for another version of our Sovereign Sisters Salons. And today is a Feminine Sovereign Chart-a-Thon. This is the second one. I did another one a couple of weeks ago, and I was able to get through 19 of the charts last time. And I have, including what I didn't get through last time, and then what I also get, and I have another 30. So I'm going to try a little bit of a different approach today, and we'll see how it goes. So I put the charts together into groupings based on the archetypes. So, and we'll just kind of see what comes out of that. I didn't have a chance to, it took me hours actually to download them all and put them all into the format that they're in already. It already took me 2.5 hours to do that. So I thought I would have more time to review them ahead of time, but I didn't. So we'll see. We'll just go for it. And I want to invite you who are here when I talk about your chart, if I talk about your chart, that you give some feedback. It's really helpful to me to know how things that I say land for you. And so I really invite you to do that. And also, just if you have ahas and comments along the way, it really makes for a rich experience for all of us when you participate in that way and don't just be a passive observer. So it's also more helpful for your learning. So I invite you to do that, okay? And I want to say hello to Marlene and Karen and Julie and Cecilia and Lane and Elrica, and some of you have are in here twice. Marcia, I think I said that right, Marcia. I know you sent me the pronunciation, so I think I got it right. Hi, Jennifer. Good to see you all. Okay, so I want to make a few opening remarks before I dive into the charts. Not a lot to say, but when I started to look at the feminine sovereign archetypes and human design, I wasn't looking at them together in relation to individual people's charts. Like I didn't go and look at Queen Elizabeth II and her chart and look at that and think about what the queen would be. That's not how I did it at all, okay? So it wasn't meant to create a correspondence between the human design chart and an individual's human design chart and the archetypes. What I was looking for, and in the program that I'm now in the middle of teaching, the Becoming Sovereign Journey with the Feminine Sovereign Archetypes, where I'm going much deeper into the human design aspect of the archetypes. And I'm really looking at what are the qualities in the human design chart that would support the qualities of the feminine sovereign archetypes. So it doesn't mean that every person who might identify with queen, for example, is going to have the gate 45. It doesn't mean that. I'm not trying to draw that kind of a correspondence. I actually don't. If anybody tried to do something like that, I wouldn't believe them, because I don't think that human design is a formula like that. And what human design shows us is it shows us our gifts and our talents and what we came in with. And it shows us our soul curriculum to a degree, like what our journey of developing ourselves into the highest aspects of our chart can be, or the highest aspects of our definition can be. But what it doesn't show us is our life experience. And our life experience has a huge impact on how we relate to the human design chart, and also just how we relate to who we are. And so I always like to give this as an example, which is that I only have one gate defined in the sensing circuit. And yet I highly identify with the sensing circuit. And the reason for that is I've spent pretty close to about 20 years really working in depth with somatic practices and things like continuum movement, also conscious dance like 5 rhythms and soul motion, but then also Kundalini yoga practices. There's all kinds of, clarity breath work. There's all different ways that I have been very interested in embodiment and an energetic embodiment and the relationship to emotions and beliefs. It's been a deep study for me for decades now. And so I've been really drawn to that. And it's definitely related to the sensing circuit, which is all about learning through experience and learning through the body and knowing through the body. And so I chalk that up to experience, right? I chalk that up to, in all of that openness that I had, I was able to dive in and have many different experiences in that part of my chart. And I was with lots of other people who are also interested in those kind of topics and practicing together. And so I got to just have a really rich experience with the sensing circuit. And so I am a very sensual person, very body oriented. But it's not technically in my chart if all we're doing is looking at the definition. Okay. So I really want to reiterate that for you. Just because something isn't defined in your chart doesn't mean you don't have it. We all have the entire chart. We all have access to all of those energies. And so when you're looking at any of the archetypes and you're resonating, so a bunch of you took it more than once. Maybe you took it the first time and you're like, that just doesn't quite resonate for me. And then you take it again, you're like, oh, that one I resonate more with. That definitely happens. Another thing that happens is, like, for me, I resonate with at least 3 or 4 of the archetypes. I mean, on any particular day, if I took my quiz, I could probably land in one of those different camps. And I can definitely step into any of those archetypal energies. I can draw on them and utilize them for my own personal power, for my expression, for my radiance, for my empowerment and how I engage in the world. And also for me to be looking at the shadow aspects and the disempowered aspects and where some of those might be operating without me even really realizing it until it comes up into my consciousness. So the quiz is not meant to be definitive in a personality quiz kind of type of mode that says you fit in this box, okay? For one thing, boxes are against human design, in my view, and they're certainly against my way of thinking. So I am not here to try to put you into a box of any of the particular archetypes, okay? It's more that the archetypes are energy fields that exist in the collective unconscious, and they can become allies for us when we know how to tap into them and utilize them. And that's what my work with all of them is about. And that's what the Journey with the Archetypes program is going really into depth about, which is, how can this energy field, right? How can it support you in expressing your life, in your leadership, in your contribution, in knowing who you are and what you're here to give, in your emotional intelligence and so on. I'm going to bring up the 8 pillars of feminine sovereignty here in just a second. So I really want to reiterate that. And for you, not because I keep hearing it's like, oh, I got this archetype, but I'm not that, And so what I want to say is, you might very well have engaged with that energy. Again, let's just go back to Queen. You may have engaged with that 45 energy a lot in your life, even if it's not defined in your chart. So I noticed that there is one person who has the 21. I have the 21 defined in my chart. That's the mate to the 45 in the money line. Okay. And that means that I'm always going to be attracting the 45 energy into my life because it's electromagnetic. So then I can become really aware of that 45 energy, and I can take it in and amplify it. So I can totally become very familiar with that energy. What I can't do is have it consistently all the time ready and available for me. And I can't sustain it because it's not defined in my chart. But it doesn't mean I don't experience that energy and haven't. And it also doesn't mean I can't call on it, because as we become more adept with understanding the energies of both the archetypes and our human design chart, and when I say that, I mean the whole chart, we can learn to draw on different energies and express them in our lives in ways that are helpful for us. Oh my goodness. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear me okay? I just realized that I had my headset plugged in. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you just say in the chat there? Yes, we heard fine. Oh God, thank you. I just looked down and saw that my headset was plugged in. Okay, Great. Well, it's a great headset, so you heard me. Okay, perfect. Oh, yes. Okay. Welcome to my world. Things like this happen every now and then. Okay. All right, let's get back on track. Okay, I think that that's most of what I wanted to say, because the open parts of your chart can be huge allies for you. Okay, don't ever think that you don't have them or you don't have access to them. They can be huge allies. But mine certainly have been. My open throat is now a huge ally for me. Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to show you these. I know. Thanks, Jennifer. I know it happens to all of us. Okay, I want to show you the. I just have to laugh when things like that happen, because it's like, oh my word. Okay, so, oops, hold on. I'm gonna get this out of the way so I can see it. Zoom is really funny this way. Okay, so these are the pillars of feminine sovereignty. And if you haven't had a chance to go check out the masterclass that you get as part of taking the quiz, you might want to go check it out. There's a really nice section on the pillars of feminine sovereignty. And I'm not going to go into them in depth today, but I wanted to just bring them up and let you know that all 6 of the archetypes share these pillars of feminine sovereignty. They just experience and express them differently. They give them different flavors, if you will. Okay. So they show up differently because the different archetypes have different like personalities, different energy fields, different ways of being in the world. They have somewhat different priorities. And so that's what I'm really sorting out in terms of looking at the human design chart. But all of them have these 8 pillars: co-creator with the flow of life, right? This is a spiritually connected energy. Emotionally intelligent, which means that we have moved in the process of moving out of our adolescent behavior that frankly is normal in our culture. Really, adolescent behavior is normal in our culture. And so we're moving into a more emotionally intelligent and not so codependent and also not so entitled way of being. And that's a key part of feminine sovereignty. Radiance and magnetic, having that radiant field that is coming from the magnetic monopole in the center of the heart, which is what attracts to you what you want if you're focusing on what you want, or what you don't want if you're focusing on what you don't want. But we need command of that radiant magnetic field. Being embodied, the more embodied we are, the easier our life becomes. And also our physical vitality we need in order to be sovereign in our lives, to know our role, our place in life, to know what our contribution is, to be able to focus on what's ours to focus on and not get overwhelmed by the bigness of what really needs attention in the world. Being an excellent communicator, which means being able to listen as well as express yourself effectively. And it also means knowing when the right time is, which is a huge teaching from human design, because you could say the same thing in 3 different situations and get very different responses depending on the timing. So the timing is huge as part of communication. Being collaborative rather than competitive, learning to really work together as sovereign beings, recognizing our sovereignty with our emotional intelligence, with our ability to communicate, with our command over our own terrain, our own energy field, our emotions, our thought processes, and our behavior, and honoring that and supporting that in each other. And then finally, benevolence, this concern for all, this really big picture, this ability to take in a much bigger picture than a lot of us do, because frankly, we're really overwhelmed a lot of the time. And so how do we get really focused so that we can also have a big picture? This is one of those paradoxes, but feminine sovereignty is all about that. Okay, so I just wanted to bring those up briefly. Okay, all right. So let me just move this here for a second. So let me just see what we've got in terms of comments here. Okay. Hi to everybody. Yeah, and Quinn, anything where your Chiron is lighting up those gates, they're not technically defined, but they play a huge role in your life. So, okay, and everybody's hearing fine. Okay. Okay, great. All right, let us dive into Queen. All right, so these are, I think there's 5 or so of these. So in this one for Diana, you'll see here that she's got the 21 defined, but not the 45. The 45 is going to be an electromagnetic for her. The 45 is, in traditional human design, is known as the king or the queen gate, or the sovereign in the royalty sense. And so it's kind of the obvious one for queen, right? But it's not necessary. In quantum human design, and I'll just say here, quantum human design is developed by my friend and my mentor, Karen Curry Parker, and she calls it natural leadership, and it is part, it's a tribal energy. And so because it's a tribal energy, it's a little bit, I don't really know if I want to call it smaller in scope than a global perspective, but it's more about who are our people, and it's a bit more defined. And so this is a tribal energy. And so for Diana, she could be feeling this 45 really strong, because she has attracted it into her life many times, even though she doesn't have it defined in her chart. I feel like I do. Like I said before, I don't have the 45 defined in my chart, but the not so much the regalness, but more the magnetism and the radiance of the queen is something that I relate to. Okay, but what's interesting is most of the rest of these all have the 45 defined. So she's got the 45. She's got the whole money line defined. Plus, look at this. She's got the whole, virtually the whole commerce or business energy. So she's got a lot of tribal energy going on here. So yeah, she's got a. This is in quantum human design. This is the commerce part, and it goes through the will center, which is all about value, right? So she's got a lot of that energy going on. Here is yet another person with the money line, and she's got the 45-21 happening. And she does not have that happening in her chart. She does have more of the sensing circuit that's happening here for her. She does have a defined will, which is a little bit unusual. But she's got this tribal energy here. When I say it's unusual, and we'll see 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5 of these charts in Queen have the will center defined, which is the center for value, for money. It's in commerce. It's a tribal energy. And so that's interesting because 7 out of 8 people have it undefined. So we have much more heavily defined in this Queen here. And let's see how many. So we've got a manifester, or we've got a manifesting generator. We've got a manifesting generator. Is that a manifesting generator? No, she's just a generator, right? Yeah, because her motors do not connect to her throat. No, she's a generator. And then what have we got here? Projector? We've got a projector. So we have all these different types, and here we've got another manifester. Okay, so you can see it spread out among the types. We have a lot of, here's a 6-2, here's another 6-2, here's a 3-5, here's a 5-1, and here's another 5-1. So a couple of 5-1s, a 3-5, and 6-2s. And I think with the the 6s are that role model. So for these, for those of you who have the 6th line with your queen, it might be that queen energy is something that you really evolve into, and that it may not be something that is apparent for you younger in your life. And it may be that younger in your life because you're working as a 3rd line up until about the age 30 or 35. you could be showing some of the lower expressions of that queen energy. All right. Just looking at the chat here. Okay. Yeah. So you have a bunch of people who have the 45. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so Trisha is saying, I have the 2145 channel. I've struggled with finding work that is super aligned with me, with values. Really want to find ways to align with this energy in an authentic way. Yeah. The thing I would say about queen energy is that its highest expression is really about generosity and benevolence, and to have the deep cellular sense that there is enough for everyone. Because that queen energy, all the resources come to the queen and then she distributes them. And so if you're ever in a place of scarcity, and if you have these defined will centers and you're feeling your scarcity, that's going to be a challenge for you. Because it's it really, that defined will should give you a strong sense of your own value. And if you're not feeling that, that's something you want to work to change. Okay. I want to show you just super briefly. Let's see here. Do I have it? Yeah. This is Martin Luther King's chart. And I was looking at it yesterday because he also, he has the gate 38, and I'll talk about this a little bit more when we get there, but he also has the gate 45, which I found to be really interesting. And I'll just say here that he had that kind of regal, generous, yes, visionary. He definitely has strong visionary, and you can see in certain people's charts they have more than one thing that is going on there. So I just want to say that, like I said, these things are not like you have this, so you're this way, or things are this way, right? But it really struck me about how much he had that natural leadership energy, and how much that really suited him. Okay, let me move on here so we can hope to get through these different ones. And so you can see I'm not really doing individual readings so much as looking at the different types here, archetypes, and seeing what we can see, because I just have too many charts. Okay, so this is visionary. Okay, so visionary is going to be plugged into super consciousness. Visionary is going to be having a sense of what's possible for humanity. Visionary is going to be really looking for kind of the pathway from here to the place that we want to go. And one of the things I was talking about yesterday in my training is that we are in the need for us all to develop our visionary capacity so that we can envision the new world that is beyond the story of progress that we've been living inside of, that we're running to the end of. Like that story of progress, which is based on continual, ongoing, accelerating growth, has basically led us to use the mass amount of resources on our planet, and we can't sustain it, right? And so we need new visions. So I would say to those of you who are here, who are in visionary, is to ask yourself, what is your role in that piece? Now with this person, she's got 2 storytelling gates defined here, right? So even though she doesn't have the gate 38, she does have its mate, which is the 28. So that means that she's probably attracted the 38 into her life a lot. But she's also got these 2 storytelling gates. And so she can start to tell a story about the new world that we're moving into. She also has this collaborative energy here in the 7. And she's got a fair bit of the knowing circuit, which means she's going to be able to be bringing in this new sense of what's possible through that connection with super consciousness. Now, this person, this is Nancy. She what do we got going on with her? Well, she's got the 23, so she's going to be, she has a little bit of the knowing circuit. So the 23 is in the knowing circuit, the 14 too, and the 8. So visionary for her, I think is going to be, let me just see, it could be more in her openness, because the parts that are more defined in her chart are a little bit more, I mean, it is the way that her root is connected. So she's got a lot of splits, if you can see that, okay? She's got one configuration here, and one configuration here, and one configuration here. So she's got a triple split, right? So she needs to be around lots of people in order to bridge her splits. And I think that for her, one of her challenges around being able to access that real visionary quality for her, because a lot of it's, you know, also down in this 41, okay? She's also got the storytelling gate here. She's got all this power coming up from the 14 into her heart center. But she's going to feel a little bit like things are split inside of her, and like she can't get her power up to her throat unless she's around other people. And so she might be having her head dominate, and her head is more logical, okay? Because she's got the whole logic thing going on thing here. And so what I would say for her is, if you want to open up your visionary, you want to be able to bridge your splits, and you take a look at leaning into your 41. Which has a little bit more to do with fantasy and imagination, and see how that can work for you. Okay. I'm just going to look for, do we just have 3? 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then for this one, so this is Susie. She's got, let's see what she got here. Okay, so she is a single definition manifester. And she has going to have strong, she's an emotional manifester. So the thing that I would say for you, Susie, around your visionary capacity and around your leadership is for you, number one, to really embrace your emotional wave and learn how to work with it in a really effective way. And then to always be making sure that you're raising your emotional vibration as far as much as possible, so that you can be calibrating that magnetic monopole, which is here in your heart center, your G center, even though it's not defined on you, but you can be doing that through your emotional tone. So you want to really be doing that. So let's see, do we have any commonalities among these? We've got 2 defined will centers, again, which is interesting. We've got just 2 defined Gs. Defined Gs are not unusual, though. Defined throats are not unusual. We've got 2 defined head and ajnas, which is unusual. So that could be, but see, this one is in logic, so she's going to have a little bit of a challenge with that one. This one has got her, she's plugged into super consciousness here, and she's plugged into the sensing circuit. So that's going to help her to be able to experience through the body. Do they all have storytelling gates? Look at that. They all have either the 13 or the 33. And so that's that ability to be able to tell a story about the new world that we're moving into. Okay, great. Let me just see. Okay, so Trisha says, love that feedback. I get asked to do volunteer work all the time, and distribution of resources key. Yeah, absolutely. Red lines. So you know what? We don't really have time to go into that in depth. And I would say for your purposes right here, just work with both of them. They both are active in your chart. What's red in your chart could feel a little bit more like it's so integral to who you are that you might not be aware of it. Okay, but that would take a whole teaching to go into it. And I would just say, just work with both of them. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Red and black are both defined. Yep. Yep. gate 19s. Did they both have gate 19s? Well, and the gate 19 is super sensitive. It's really, really about, it's like the most sensitive gate in the whole chart. Okay, I got visionary and have half the red line between 13 and 33 as well. Yeah, so it's that storytelling. Most had gate 19. Isn't that interesting? It's not a manifester, it's visionary, not manifester. You don't have to be a manifester to be a visionary. All right, let's move on. I want to try to get through all these. Actually, hold on, let me do this, move this over. Let's try this again, hold on. You guys having fun? Is this interesting? Good, let me know. All right, so New World Leader. So one of the things that was really interesting to me is that New World Leader, so the three most common types are New World Leader, High Priestess is number one, and then Wise Woman. And as more and more people have done the quiz, Wise Woman has come up more, and it'll be interesting when I start really promoting this wildly. Yes, widely, what kind of distribution we see. But New World Leader was pretty common. So let's see what we've got among New World Leaders. Okay, so this is Kim. And the thing that jumps out immediately to me is she's got all this power down here, right? She's got three motors that are defined. She's a generator. She's an emotional generator. What's her profile? She's a 6'3". Yeah, so she's going to be a role model. Here we've got same three motors defined. Oh, I was down at the bottom. Okay, let me go to the top. Sorry about that. All right, so we've got 2 motors defined. Let me just look at that. 2 motors defined. Oh, no motors defined. So we got a no motor projector here. And then 2 different motors defined, 3 motors defined, and 3 motors defined. Interesting. Okay. So let's just, so for New World Leader, so what the energy that I was talking about in just the quiz was the gate 31, which is right here. Because the gate 31 is known as democratic leader or democracy in quantum human design. It's the energy for having the really big picture. So if the queen is a tribal energy, the 31 is a collective energy. It's part of the logic circuit or the pattern circuit, the ability to see patterns, be able to see the big picture. And the collective circuitry is like when you bring all the tribes together, okay, right? We all usually have individual tribes that we're a part of, right? And then there can be bigger tribes that we're a part of that we identify with. Like I identify as part of the larger tribe of the conscious dance community, right? Globally, it's a particular tribe. They have particular interests, particular values to some extent, okay? And so, but then there's also lots of other tribes, like I'm part of the yoga tribe because I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher. And so I'm part of that tribe too. And so we have different tribes. And so the collective energy is when you put all the tribes together. And that's really what we need for a global leader, right? And so New World Leader is about that perspective of that bigger, that the ability to see something bigger. Now, so that's what I was working with in terms of, or one of the aspects of working with a New World Leader. So this person does not have a lot of collective energy. They actually have more individual energy and some tribal energy. She's got a little bit of collective energy, but it's more through the sensing circuit, which is interesting. She does have that same gate of fantasy, and here's the 19 is here as well. She does have this is a really potent configuration down here, which is part of the integration circuit. And so what I would say for this person is she has a design to be different, to be not to fit in. And that could totally fit with a New World Leader who has the ability to be bringing in new forms, because we're here I have a lot of individual circuitry here that's designed to bring in new ideas and new forms, and that could absolutely fit with that as well. The other thing I'll remark on here is she's got a defined 12 on an open throat, which is the mark of the channel. So she could be bringing in a lot of information that way. Let's see, what did she got? The 61. Yeah, she's got the 61. So she could have the 61 bringing in that information from superconsciousness and then expressing it out through that open throat. Here we've got the same 3410, which is over in the quantum human design is the gate of courage. Channel of courage, right? And she's got that also. So that's interesting to anybody. Does anybody else have that? No. Okay. So let's see, where was I? Okay. So she does have some of the logic circuit here in her chart. She doesn't have the 31. She does have the 45, though, double defined. So leadership is definitely, this is for Ellen, leadership is definitely a part of your purpose. And here in quantum human design, with your 5th line profile, Karen is now calling that the visionary leader rather than the heretic, which I think is definitely better. So 5th lines definitely have the visionary leader as part of their chart. This person right here, there it is. She's got, this is for Chelsea, she's definitely got just this last part of the it's coming down here through the gate of joy and then up. This is the logic circuit. And so she's got this defined. Where's her 31? Plus it's double defined in her chart. Let's see, where is it? So it's her Mercury and her Jupiter. So leadership is all over your chart, Chelsea. So I hope that you are taking that on and really working with that. And even though you're a no motors projector, you still can definitely have a lot of influence as a leader. You've got lots of markers for that. Plus you've got the 38 down here, which is that visionary leadership marker, which is different than the 5th profile, but they're definitely overlapping. That's that Martin Luther King gate. And it's double defined in your Neptune. Yeah. Definitely a lot of leadership there. Now, see here, this person has got the 45. And I noticed this last time when I did this 2 weeks ago, that there were a lot of people who had the 45, even though they weren't the queen. And I think that this is an interesting phenomenon where, so you've got the 45 and you've also got the 38 defined in her chart. So she may have taken, and Martin Luther King had both of those in his chart. And so even though I may have thrown those into queen and visionary, those energies will definitely support a new world leader. Oh, I know. There was one other thing I wanted to say about her. So she's got this, she's definitely plugged into super consciousness here, the 61, the 43, 23. This is mutative energy. She's here to bring in new ideas, to bring in new forms, to create the new. So that's going to be something that's going to support new world leaders also. She's also got the 57 that's going to do that. Here we've got another 43, 23, same thing, same kind of energy there, bringing in really the new possibilities. But then she's also got this 45 and this 38, right? And the defined will, which is going to give her a sense of power and authority and build her self-esteem, provided that she's aligning with that higher expression of that defined will center. Now, I think I talked briefly about Kimberly before. Kimberly, the main thing, excuse me, for her here is this 3828. And she's also got this whole channel here. Well, let me talk about the 3828 for a second, because we've seen it a few times, and we've also seen just the 28 and just the 38. So, Rob was pretty negative in his view of the 3828. Karen is much more positive about it. I have the 3828 defined in my chart. And the way that we're evolving it now is to really see, traditionally it was known as the channel of struggle. The 28 was the gate of struggle. The 2838 was the channel of struggle. Karen's now calling it the channel of meaning, which I love, because struggle is, you know, if you think of it from a Buddhist perspective, okay, struggle is an option. Okay, suffering is an option. Okay, we all experience challenge. Everybody experiences challenge. And yes, some people experience more challenge than others. But how we respond to that challenge has a lot to do with our well-being. It has a lot to do with what happens in our lives. And so if we can take what might be struggle, or if we notice we're struggling with something, and turn it into a challenge and go, okay, how am I going to meet this challenge? And see the opportunity in that, right? And we always like to refer to the Chinese hieroglyph for challenge and struggle, or struggle and, no, sorry. Challenge and opportunity are the same hieroglyph in Chinese. And so if you can even take that another step and turn it into adventure, right? How can we make this really challenging situation something that we can actually find some kind of joy and excitement in? And I think that that's one of the highest spiritual practices that we're all engaged in right now. And so if you've got this configuration in your chart, and you've read negative stuff about it in traditional human design, I totally get it. Because when I was first looking at this, it was like, oh my God, I'm like doomed to struggle my whole life. It doesn't have to be that way. If you can embrace that you're actually on the leading edge of consciousness, that's why you're always meeting challenges. Because if you think about it, if we're moving into new territory that we don't know about, we're going to run into different kinds of things that we don't know how to interpret, when we don't know how to deal with. And this is something that any new world leader needs to know how to do, right? We need to know how to do that. And ideally, we're going to find some joy in it. And then the other thing that I would say, let's see, does anybody else have, oh, she's got the 38. She's got the 38. The other thing I would just say here for you, for Kim, is to look into this channel right here, the 4130, because it's a really potent channel for your imagination and for you coming up with ideas that are going to fuel you in being able to create what you want in your life. And the 30 is a super, where it's lighting up here, 30. As your south node is, the 30 is about intensity. And so you want to be able to get a handle on that intensity. And as I don't know what your birthday is, but as a 6-3, you know, as you're moving more into your 50s or in your 50s, you'll get a better handle on that. Okay. And then Michelle, let's see, what do we want to say about Michelle? Michelle has got the 31. So she's got that. What's lighting up the 31? It's her Earth. So that's a super important part of your chart. Michelle, you may already know that. You definitely want to be able to be grounding yourself in that 31 energy, and to be looking at how can you be that leader. And you're a 5th line also, so you've got that visionary leader component going on for you as well. And you've also got this ability to be seeing some patterns. So this is all the logic circuit here. And so you've got a fair bit of it. And plus you've got joy. This is also in the logic circuit, but it's about the joy of being able to see the patterns and then put the patterns into their right order as possible there. Okay. Yeah, that's the main thing that I would be saying for you. You also have, so you've got the activations for all, for the sensing circuit and the knowing circuit and for the logic circuit, and that's great. So that means you have all different kinds of ways to be plugging into super consciousness, and you have this bit of the knowing circuit that's coming in here and then coming up through the center. Okay, so that's going to also be helping you with receiving new ideas. You're not going to know even where they came from. Don't let the logic part of you discount those ideas just because you can't prove them or you can't say where you got them from, or they're not logical, they're not linear. Just to really embrace those kind of ideas that are coming to you because they're valuable. And it's one of the things I love about human design is it shows us these different ways that we have different ways of knowing that are highly valuable, that are more intuitive, that are not a part of our common culture.